The finale of The Mandalorian's inaugural season proved to be a massive Pandora's box of lore, paving the way for all the future conflict to define Mando's return in the second season. Let's take a look at how much bigger Mando's story has become, and what it will mean for the next hotly anticipated season, whenever it arrives. Within the action-packed shell of The Mandalorian Chapter 8, a rich, succulent nugget of characterization from Mando was slowly revealed. His brush with death gave us the first opportunity we've ever had to actually see Pedro Pascal in his role as the Mandalorian. When IG-11 removes his helmet to save his life under the amusingly convenient technicality that the droid isn't a living being, which means Mando wouldn't wound his honor by revealing his face to him.
So what happens if you take that thing off? They come after you and kill you?
No. You just can't ever put it back on again.
It's a deeply humanizing moment for our hero, whose full name has now been spoken on screen to show his face in his most desperate moment, visibly frightened and lost, like any other person in the face of death. Additionally, it's particularly special because IG-11 came to represent a mirror for Mando and the kind of man he used to be. After a little help shaking off the Grim Reaper, Mando had bestowed upon him an official signet to represent his complete identity within the Mandalorian Creed, and finally got a slick jetpack of his very own. Being of no traditional Mandalorian clan himself, he has become his own collective unit with the Child, aka Baby Yoda, as a clan of two, and was given his mission: return the Child to where it belongs. That said, it's become painfully clear that if the Child belongs anywhere, it's with Mando. But again, that's the overarching emotional journey we're going on with our favorite chrome-domed hero as he continues fully realizing that. Underneath his Mandalorian armor, the character fans have fallen in love with over the course of the series' first season is named Din Djarin. Mando's canonical name snuck out into the public eye some weeks ago, so you may have already heard it if you were paying attention. But at the end of the day, his true moniker isn't of any terrible consequence or meant to be a forbidden secret. The importance in revealing his name now on The Mandalorian Chapter 8 is both to underline just how dangerous Moff Gideon is, and also to compound the humanization of Mando's character that occurs within the episode. Nobody hanging out with him on screen needs to call him by his name, but we should hear it in this particular episode's context, after we've learned many of this man's deepest truths and see him at his lowest. Moff Gideon likely knows very little about Mando as a person and only knows his name because it's on an official governmental list on Mandalore. But Moff and everything he represents makes for the perfect kind of pre-packaged instant villain for our helmeted hero.
You may think you have some idea of what you are in possession of, but you do not.
Moff is directly representative of the Mandalorian's galactic genocide and the society that robbed pre-Mandalorian Din Djarin of his original family, which we have finally gotten to witness in its totality. And that's before we even get to the threat the governor represents to the Child. Truly, Moff Gideon is the specter shadowing Mando's entire existence as a person, consistently robbed of a permanent home and family. It's perfect narrative poetry. This is the thing and person from which Mando must defend his new tiny clan. We'd say he's doing a pretty good job of pulling it off. On the Season 1 finale of The Mandalorian, Moff Gideon emerges from his wrecked TIE fighter and reveals the real twist by holding the mythical Darksaber. That sure was a last-second lore drop, wasn't it? For those unfamiliar, the Darksaber is an ancient lightsaber dating back over a millennium. The handmade weapon of the first Mandalorian inducted into the Jedi Order, the Darksaber was stolen in the midst of the Old Republic's slow, war-ridden demise, and then returned to Mandalore. It stayed there for centuries to become a generational token passed down to descendants of the Vizsla clan that once ruled the home planet. Very, very long story short, when the Empire fell, the Darksaber was in the possession of a Mandalorian woman named Bo-Katan, leader of the pro-Republic Mandalorian forces. However, that's where the trail ends, just before the Battle of Yavin and the official fall of the Empire, somewhere between 8 and 10 years prior to this episode of The Mandalorian. Bo-Katan obviously no longer possesses the Darksaber, and we can only assume she would give it up over her dead body. Ominous, huh? It's a curious turn for the Star Wars franchise to pass the lore baton from an animated series back to a live-action one in such a big way, and onto such an utterly blank page, too. This is doubly true when you consider that animated series like The Clone Wars and Rebels were primarily aimed at children, and The Mandalorian really isn't. When the Empire fell, Mandalore was in a state of civil war. No further canonical information exists, so The Mandalorian is gleefully seeking to fill those pages up on its own terms. This is no small side story anymore. The show will enter a new phase in its second season as a full-throated, major piece of canon thanks to the Darksaber reveal. If Bo-Katan is indeed dead and the Darksaber has been stolen from its people, what's the political state of Mandalore post-Empire? The Republic-led forces seem to be on the ascent along with the rest of the rebellion, but the heart of the conflict for the Mandalorians in the past several canonical decades was whether or not to become more pacifist and relinquish martial culture. How much does that matter to the plot of The Mandalorian? And how in blazes did an Imperial Remnant governor get a hold of the MacGuffin that the Darksaber represents? We'll be sitting on our hands for the next several months waiting to find out when the second season of The Mandalorian arrives, hopefully sometime in 2020. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite movies and TV shows are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.